negotiate with the enemy. In today's Focus Report, our team met with one of the few people that can help get a hostage freed. At one point this year, France had the world's highest number of citizens in captivity, 15. That number now stands at 7. Kidnappers generally want a ransom or they have political demands, and that's where someone like Robert Dulas steps in. But his services come at a price. Romeo Langlois brings you this report.
Freemason, intelligence expert, Robert Dulas is a man of the shadows.
Hello, Maiga. Yeah, it's Bob.
An old hand when it comes to French-speaking Africa, Bob often calls his friends in the desert by satellite phone. This includes chiefs of the MNLA, the Tuareg liberation group in northern Mali.
We got cut off. Communications via Turaya networks can take an hour for only 3 minutes talking.
Over 40 years living in Africa, he built a large network of informers. In French, men like Bob are commonly known as barbouzes, secret agents who work independently of the authorities.
I don't like the term barbouze. Barbouze is someone who's only interested in making money, no matter what the cause is, without a conscience, without asking himself questions. And I do ask myself questions.
Bob's motivation is his Tuareg friends and their long-running independence movement. In December 2012, shortly before the French military intervention in Mali, it was Bob who organized for the MNLA chiefs to visit Paris. He helped make their rebellion movement appear more respectable.
I managed to get them into the National Assembly, the Senate, then the Foreign Ministry, and finally in the Defense Ministry. They showed the Minister of Defense or his Director of Cabinet strategic places where Al-Qaeda were hiding weapons. And in the weeks that followed, the French blew up these places.
According to Bob, the anti-jihadist alliance between France and the Tuaregs didn't last.
They needed the Tuaregs and the MNLA at that moment. They were useful. Today it can't exactly be said France is desperately trying to help them out.
Thanks to his network of Tuareg contacts, Bob observed Al-Qaeda in the Sahel for years.
Those are the guys from the Mujao. It was my guys who took the photo. And that's a plane used for trafficking cocaine. What we were looking for was information on what was happening in the area, particularly sales of arms and the movement of armed groups.
Bob even approached Agbakabo, a top suspect in the investigation into the murder of 2 journalists from RFI, France 24's sister radio station.
He had connections with the Malian army, from whom he bought weapons and then resold to Al-Qaeda. So he had ways in, kind of everywhere. It's true, he could have been someone very interesting in terms of information.
In 2010, Bob wrote this about Agbakabo.
Cigarettes, drugs, and arms trafficking, selling whatever can be sold. Petrol, intelligence, unreliable, he'd sell his family. He's not a jihadist, he's an opportunist, he's a thug. Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for the kidnapping, but they were not pulling the string.
Bob doesn't trust communications technologies. He says his activities are of interest to the French secret services, but he's also stepping on their toes. He's decided to talk because he fears for his life. In 2011, as war raged in Libya, his associate Pierre Marzali from the private security company Secopex was killed by rebels in Benghazi.
He was assassinated in what the Libyans wanted to make look like a mistake by local security forces, but it was in fact a planned assassination.
Bob is now settling his scores. With 2 French journalists, he's writing a book on Francophone Africa, which will include details of 4 French hostages freed in October this year. He says his company could have set them free sooner for a lower cost, but the French secret services deliberately ignored their information.
With Pierre, we had proof of where they were. We gave in the evidence. We knew their position, when they were separated. All the information was given in, but nothing was followed up. So questions must be asked. Why pull the brakes on all that? Were there financial reasons behind that? Certainly, clearly, us in the middle, we were a nuisance.
At 65 years old, Bob is taking a step back, but he's still looking back at his eventful life. He's writing his memoirs.
Now time for the sports roundup with all the latest coming